the stunning death of actor Malcolm-Jamal Warner.
Breaking entertainment news, Malcolm-Jamal Warner has died.
Malcolm-Jamal Warner, dead at the age of 54 on a drowning accident.
Malcolm-Jamal Warner passed away at the age of 54. He was most famous and adored for his iconic portrayal of Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. The news, which was first reported by TMZ and then verified by the Associated Press, rocked the world. Warner tragically died in Costa Rica after reportedly drowning. Officials say he was dragged into deeper waters by a powerful current while swimming at Playa Cocales in Limon, a well-known beach on the Caribbean coast of the nation. He was declared dead at the scene despite attempts to resuscitate him.
This was a very strong riptide that didn't just affect Malcolm, and I don't know that even if there had been a lifeguard there, if he would have been able to have been saved.
TMZ with the final photo of Malcolm as he headed to his family vacation in Costa Rica from his home in Atlanta.
Generations of people were affected by the loss. Former child star Malcolm-Jamal Warner was more than that. For those closest to him, he was a man of great emotional depth and silent, unfailing love. He was also a creative force, a thoughtful artist, a musician, and a television icon of Black excellence. His admirers lamented the passing of a character who had grown up on screen alongside them and had become a mainstay of their early years. His only daughter, however, expressed the greatest sadness, and her homage has had a lasting impression on everyone who has read or heard it.
Unclear if the body has been returned back stateside. It will likely be a bit delayed just because the authorities in Costa Rica are going to perform an autopsy.
1, 2, 3! Ah! There he is. He's getting up.
Their scenes together were electric.
Just 48 hours after the news broke, the statement was made public and it immediately went viral on social media. Numerous news organizations and celebrities have quoted her tribute, which is straightforward in wording but brimming with emotion. It was derived from the unvarnished, heartbroken heart of a young girl who had recently lost her father. She wrote, "My father was the most beautiful soul I have ever known. He was Theo to the world. He was a pioneer in the field. But he was just my father. The man who fixed my broken bikes, made my lunches, and danced with me in the kitchen when no one else was around." She had managed to distill her father's true nature in the midst of an emotional tornado, the private man who lived in quiet devotion behind the scenes, as well as the character we knew on screen. "There is a heartbreaking sadness inside me that I can't describe," she added.
Today, Malcolm's TV dad, Bill Cosby, crushed by the news of his on-screen son's passing.
Theo, why is your shirt wide open?
That's what we heard.
Without his laughter, I'm not sure how I'll manage to survive. I felt safe in his embraces. I could calm my storms with his voice, and he's gone now. Her grace in recognizing the legacy Malcolm-Jamal Warner left behind, coupled with her vulnerability, was what made the tribute so moving. She paid tribute to the man as well as the performer, artist, and cultural icon he became. She wrote about how much he loved human emotion and storytelling, how she watched him practice for roles, and how he would recite poetry at night while jazz hummed in the background. For him, acting was more than just a job, she said. He had a purpose. He had a deep affection for the craft. He thought that stories had the power to open minds, heal, and educate. After reading scripts, I witnessed him cry. I witnessed him putting his all into the parts he performed. When people told him I saw him light up, they felt seen by Theo Huxtable. He was proud of that. I was proud of that. She continued by describing his commitment to honesty in the entertainment sector.
He was really a great kid.
Yeah.
He was really,
A lot of kids grew up with him.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And Beyonce posting on her official website, "Rest in power, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Thanks for being a big part of our shared television history."
I knew him very well. We were young together.
All right, everybody say, party till you drop.
Warner had long shunned scandal and the pursuit of fame. Rather, he concentrated on writing that emphasized tales of Black love, resiliency, and vulnerability. He stayed true to his roots by frequently declining ostentatious parts in favor of ones that had nuance and compassion. Always focused on the truth, he poured his heart into live music, spoken word poetry, and personal development. She addressed her father directly in one of her message's most poignant passages. "I want you to know that I was always watching, Dad, if you can hear me, observing your kind demeanor and your ability to maintain your composure in a society that continuously seeks to distance people from their inner selves. Just as I was always proud of you, I want you to feel the same way about me. I'll try to uphold what you taught me for the rest of my life." She recounted their most recent phone chat, during which he expressed his satisfaction with the tranquility of Costa Rica. He had sent her a plate of grilled fish, a book of poetry he was reading, a journal in which he had been writing reflections, and photos of the beach and palm trees. She said he sounded free and happy. However, destiny had other ideas. Even in paradise, he had been smiling and waving to people when he got into the water that morning, according to witnesses. Although Playa Cocals is infamous for erratic rip currents, he was regarded as a strong swimmer who felt at ease in the sea. He was seen struggling, and by the time lifeguards arrived, it was too late, according to Costa Rican officials.
When I was about 6 years old, I told my parents that I was either going to be a famous actor, a famous poet, or a famous basketball player.
Okay. A portrait of a man that most people never saw was presented by his daughter's tribute. The father who braided her hair, who played Miles Davis during breakfast, and who set an example rather than raising his voice. She described his routines, including the way he read her Langston Hughes before bed, lit candles before writing, and whispered affirmations to her each morning before school. She remarked, "He called me his forever poem." He claimed that the one story he didn't want to end was mine. She made a statement that changed the world as she wrapped up her homage. "You gave me your heart, and you gave the world your genius. I'll carry that. I'll continue to listen to your music. I'll preserve your tales, and I'll love people the way you taught me to, truthfully, bravely, and gently. Dad, I'll make sure you're proud of me for the rest of my life." A tidal wave of emotion swept through the entertainment industry after the statement. Co-stars, directors, musicians, fans, and civil rights leaders all offered their condolences. Felicia Rashad, a former co-star, described him as a man of quiet brilliance and deep soul. The world couldn't help but notice him, even though he never saw attention. "He was our brother, and now he's our ancestor," wrote another former cast member of The Cosby Show. Fans gathered to leave flowers and light candles outside the house where Warner had spent the previous 10 years. A handwritten sign that said, "Thank you for showing us what manhood could look like," was pinned to his front gate. In the weeks after his passing, his daughter was not seen by the public. However, people close to her claimed that she was writing her own songs, listening to his old recordings, and finding strength in his words. A close family friend revealed that she is starting to resemble him, quiet, purposeful, and soulful. Through her, he survives. A memorial service honoring Warner's life and legacy is being planned. It is said that his daughter is curating it herself, picking out each poem, song, and image. Malcolm would have wanted his daughter, his forever poem, to be the one to continue his legacy, according to those who knew him. Some stars are bright, fade fast, and are forgotten. Those stars did not include Malcolm-Jamal Warner. His stories made us feel more human. He lit paths for young Black men and women, and he was a constant flame that warmed generations. The tribute to his daughter served as a reminder to the world of both our losses and our blessings. His voice reverberated in the craft, in the culture, and in the heart of the daughter who loved him the most. She gave the world a gift in her grief, a final portrait of a man we believed we knew, but now have a much deeper understanding of. By doing this, she made sure that his life would continue through her, all of us, and every untold tale, rather than ending with his last breath. Early fame, creative reinvention, introspection, and unwavering artistic integrity were all woven together in Malcolm-Jamal Warner's life and career. Most famous to the world is Theo Huxtable, The Cosby Show's endearing and sometimes mischievous teenage son. Warner had a brief period of fame and cultural significance at the start of his career. However, behind the scenes and in the decades that followed, he went through both professional and personal triumphs and setbacks, including a string of private health struggles that he kept hidden from the public for years. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was born in Jersey City, New Jersey, and was brought up by a single mother who recognized her son's potential at a young age. Malcolm X and jazz great Ahmad Jamal, two potent representations of excellence in their respective domains, are the names she gave him. Warner would be shaped for the rest of his life by this combination of artistic influence and cultural pride. He started doing professional acting when he was 9 years old, and his life had completely changed by the time he was 14. One of the most innovative sitcoms in American television history, The Cosby Show, featured Warner as Theo Huxtable in 1984. Warner's portrayal of Theo, who was equal parts lovable, awkward, and sincere, struck a chord with viewers of all racial and generational backgrounds. as the series swiftly became a cultural phenomenon. In particular, Theo's storyline about his learning disability received praise for its compassionate treatment of dyslexia, giving millions of kids facing similar difficulties recognition and respect. Warner experienced both pressure and excitement during those years. He was frequently expected to bear the moral burden of an entire generation because he was a young Black male lead on a highly regarded network show. Warner later disclosed that there was a price to being raised on a set as well-known and closely watched as The Cosby Show, despite the fact that he rarely faltered in public. While identity and emotional stability took longer to establish, fame came quickly. Warner had to deal with the age-old problem of a child star attempting to move into adult roles after The Cosby Show ended in 1992. Despite his skill, there were few opportunities in the industry for young Black men to develop beyond their most iconic roles. Even though he found employment, much of it felt like a step down from the critical acclaim and cultural prominence he had previously experienced due to his frequent typecasting. Warner was determined not to fall victim to early fame. He expanded his skills and began directing, working behind the camera on Malcolm and Eddie, The Cosby Show, and other shows. He experimented with poetry and music, developing a strong passion for spoken word and jazz. He put out a number of albums that showed a profoundly introspective artist through his lyrical reflections and bass playing, very different from the image of a teenage idol that had characterized him. Despite periods of stagnation in his post-Cosby career, Warner declined to pursue stardom. Rather, he placed more importance on emotional authenticity and creative control. Even though it was a noble choice, it frequently meant avoiding the spotlight. He spent years in a sort of professional limbo because Hollywood didn't always understand his decisions, respected but not given much attention. When audiences and critics alike rediscover his depth and gravitas in the 2000s, his persistence started to pay off. His performances in American Crime Story and Read Between the Lines garnered him recognition. However, his performance as Dr. A.J. Austin in the medical drama The Resident was what brought his talent back into the spotlight. Warner dominated the screen as the eloquent and driven cardiac surgeon with subtle emotion and quiet strength. However, few were aware of the difficulties Warner was dealing with behind the scenes. He had battled sporadic health problems for years, such as joint pain, fatigue, and chronic inflammation, which he frequently dismissed as the price of aging. However, these symptoms worsened in his late 40s. He eventually received a diagnosis of an autoimmune disease that impacted both his immune and neurological systems. After a series of false positives and frustrations, for a long time, he only told close friends and family about the diagnosis. He didn't want his health to take precedence over his career or to be perceived as weak. But eventually he started to mention it in passing during interviews, stating that he was learning to take more deliberate control of his body rather than specifically naming the illness. The notion that working yourself to the bone is a badge of honor was something I had to unlearn. In one interview, he stated, "Your body isn't the only aspect of your health. It's your soul, your tranquility, and your decisions." Warner took a holistic stance on health. He improved his dietary discipline, engaged in yoga and meditation, and took long pauses between tasks to recuperate. Additionally, he focused more on poetry and music, which allowed him to explore his inner world free from the constraints of scripts and studio lights. Warner was discreetly admitted to the hospital in 2020 amid the global COVID-19 pandemic due to complications arising from his autoimmune disease. Although he never publicly acknowledged this, those close to him called it a wake-up call. "I can't be everything for everyone if I'm not being enough for myself," he allegedly said to a friend afterwards. That year turned out to be pivotal. Warner stepped away from well-known acting parts and returned to his production and mentoring duties. In order to connect with his audience without endangering his health, he performed at small jazz venues, collaborated on independent projects with young Black creatives, and assisted in creating educational programs on identity and the arts. In public appearances, Warner exuded poise and purpose despite the physical limitations imposed by his condition. He performed spoken word poetry, made appearances at Black cultural festivals, and served as a guest star on shows that shared his beliefs. More significantly, he emerged as a strong voice for chronic illness and mental health in the Black community, frequently highlighting the value of early diagnosis and destigmatizing rest and therapy. He frequently discussed in interviews his internal struggles, self-worth, loneliness, burnout, and how he had finally learned to ground his value in authenticity rather than praise. During a podcast appearance, he stated, My greatest role isn't on camera. It involves being a partner, a father, and a complete human being. In fact, one of the most distinctive features of Warner's later years was becoming a father. He talked about his daughter infrequently, but always with respect. "She gave my life a rhythm I didn't know was missing," he once remarked. He saw in his daughter not only the carrying on of his legacy, but also the personification of the qualities he valued most: emotional honesty, inventiveness, and resilience. Many characterize Warner's rhythm as graceful and centered by the time he turned 50. He always made time for reflection, was deliberate in his conversations, and chose his projects carefully. His spirit had never been stronger, according to those close to him, even though his body hurt occasionally. Warner was writing a memoir in his last years, which would combine personal essays, poetry, and thoughts on fatherhood, art, race, and celebrity. That was never made available. According to reports, the manuscript, which is currently in the possession of his daughter and a literary executive, is both unvarnished and exquisite, offering a glimpse into a life molded by grace, complexity, and growth. The world grieved the loss of an artist who had transformed from a boy into a man in front of our eyes, and who had never stopped changing when Warner passed away suddenly while on vacation in Costa Rica. Even though accidental drowning was declared the cause of death, many questioned whether his chronic health conditions might have made him more susceptible. However, according to those closest to him, he passed away in a setting he loved, surrounded by nature and at peace with himself. His journey was full, but his death was premature. The demands of child stardom spawned a career that blossomed into a lifetime quest for meaning and depth. He had no desire to become famous. He aspired to serve something greater than himself as a craftsman, truth teller, and soul. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was more than just Theo. He was a musician whose one note could bring tears to a room. He was a poet who transformed his own suffering into therapeutic words. He was a father, a mentor, a survivor, and a director. His highs and lows weren't failures. They were making tools, leaving a lasting legacy, and living a life that mattered. His tale serves as a reminder that not all success is loud. Sometimes it's subtle, steady, and etched in the love you give, the art you leave behind, and the way you treat others. Until his last breath, Malcolm-Jamal Warner lived that truth. And in doing so, he taught us that rising from every setback is a way of life, not just a career path. I appreciate you watching. Please take a moment to honor Malcolm-Jamal Warner by leaving a comment below with your favorite scene, memory, or quote if this tribute resonated with you. His life served as an example of elegance, nuance, and artistic fervor. In his daughter's words, serve as a reminder that love endures despite the most profound sadness. For more touching homages to the lives that influenced our screens and souls, remember to subscribe and like this video if you were affected by his legacy. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, may you rest in peace. In every heart you touched, your story lives on.